All right, so we're going to look at horizontal analysis today. And so the first thing I would recommend when you're doing these types of problems in Excel is to do probably one of two things, but I would highly recommend doing both, especially one. First thing is I would take notes on what you did around your document, and you might have to increase the column a little bit to fit it, but you definitely want to take notes on like what we do. And so I'll do an example when I get to these columns of what that looks like. The other thing is I would print out the Excel document and write down notes or formulas or what you did or what you saw that will help you remember or learn this material better. And the reason being is research has proven that if you write stuff down, you'll remember more of it than typing it. So that's a great strategy to help you remember and get comfortable with this horizontal analysis. So the first thing we need to do in this problem, in this exercise, is we need to figure out total costs, and we need to find our calculate our departmental profit. So total cost, the word total, that tells me we need to add up a bunch of things and do sum. And so revenue is not a cost, so that means that we will have to add up all the words or all the categories with cost in it, which is Tuesday. So we're going to do equals, start typing in sum. Remember to double click it because then it will pop up. And the way you know your function's available and it's being used is this little bar will pop up and it will tell you you need numbers. And so we're going to take C11, which is the cost of food sold in 2014, and we're going to drag down to other costs. And we're going to close it with a parenthesis, and we're going to hit enter. And so we can do the same thing for 2015, but there's a little shortcut hint if you're not aware of it, and that is to drag this over, and it will duplicate the sum for you with the appropriate boxes. So we just figured out the total cost of 2015 by just dragging this formula over here or this function over here, and it duplicates it for you. And then we gotta get the profit, and that's gonna be the food revenue. And we're gonna subtract the cost from the revenue. And then we hit enter. And we do the same thing here. Let's take this little box down here and just drag it over, and it'll duplicate it for us. And so we have to do less work. And now that's all great, and it helps us out. But remember that we're technically not thinking about it. We're thinking about the action of dragging it over to duplicate it, but we're not thinking about, oh, that was 2015's food revenue minus total cost. So that's why I recommend making notes or writing down so that you're not just mindlessly duplicating stuff and forgetting what you're doing, which will help in the end when you're trying to make a decision about the data you've collected and calculated. Next thing we want to figure out the change. And we want to figure out the change from 2014 to 2015. And so the first thing I noticed is that we had an increase. 2014, we had 3,265,000 compared to 2015, which we had 3,585,000. So that means we had an increase. So when we do this calculation, we want to make sure that the number is positive. And so what we're going to do here to figure out the changes is we're going to take the difference we're going to start off with the most recent year, and we're going to subtract the year being compared, which is 2014. And we hit enter, and we have a positive number. So that tells us that from 2014 to 2015, we had an increase of $320,000. And so we need the change for all of these data points, for all these horizontal analysis between the categories. And so again, we can drag the little draggy thing, drag that down, and it'll duplicate it for us. This one we don't need, so we're just going to delete it because it's zero. There's nothing there. It's a blank row. And so this gives us all the changes. And here I see a negative number. And so at first look, that might be a mistake, or maybe something happened. Let's just double check it. 2014, we had $1,142,750. And then we went to 2015, and we did have a decrease in the payroll cost. So that number does make sense with the numbers being compared. So that's good. Next thing we want to do is we're going to do percent change. And so keyword here that helps us remember, it says percent change. So we're going to get a percent of what the change was with like the change. So we can, up here, we can make a note of what we're actually going to do, and that's going to be change divided by 2014 cost. And so we go over here, the equal sign, the change, divide, and this is going to tell us like the percent of change out of the total amount in 2014. So we have a 9.8% change. And then do the drag right down. This is going to give us an error because there's nothing there. So let's just get rid of it. And so all this did is took that function and applied it to all of these. And we look at them, and we had a negative change here in the payroll costs, and the percent matches up because it's a negative percent change. So that works as well. Next thing we're going to do is the index. And the index is going to be the 2015 cost divided by the 2014 cost. And we're going to multiply that by 100. And so we start off with the first one, equals 2015 divided by 2014 food revenue, multiply that by 100, and that gives us the index. These are really similar to percents because if we had a 100% increase from 2014 and 2015, that technically means we made the same amount. But since we made more than the 2014 amount, then we would have more of 100% gain, or 100% gain. And so that matches up. And then by that logic, since we had a decrease in the payroll cost, that means that that number, that index should be less than 100 because we made less than the total amount, which would be less than 100% of it. And so when we drag this down, let's see if we get that. And if we look up there, let's get rid of that because we don't need it. 94.115, and that is less than 100, which makes sense because we had a decrease in our payroll cost. And so that's the index. And so what we did was we did a horizontal analysis. We compared categories in two time periods, and that was 2014 and 2015. And so you would then use these numbers to answer questions about the data and what needs to be changed and what worked and what didn't. And this helps any company or business do that basically in a comparison of years, which is a great way to do it.